Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician. Here's another video, two for this evening, where we're going to look at some forces from Anomen that all kind of connect together. These are things I've actually talked about before, some of this stuff, a lot. But I need to give a video in the context of Anomen because it's in there and it's probably one of the more powerful topical types of forces. So we'll save ourselves some grief here. That's what we're going for, just like the last video. I'm just going to use one die. Not two, more than that. Not two, more than that. Four, four, I guess. We'll do four. Okay, so we've got a deck of cards here, and we're just going to count four cards. Four cards is it, right? 1, 2, 3. This is 4, and it is indeed the Ace of Spades. So that is the first one. Here's the second variation on the theme. It gets a separate description in Anomen. And again, we're going for that card and we're going for that number. So you have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. There it is. Ace. And then let's see, here's the next one. This probably won't work as well, and I can't probably do this justice. It's not something I do normally, but we'll try it anyway. And let's go for a bigger number than 4, though. I'll just say 6. 6, okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Here's the 6th card. And the 6th card is Ace of Spades. Don't know how that went around in the camera, but it is one that Anomen mentions, so we'll talk about that. And then the last one we'll talk about briefly is this one here. So this one you take cards from the bottom, right, is how it works. So they give a number, we'll say 4 again. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And the 4th card is the Ace of Spades. So what's going on here? Let's talk about each one of these. So the first one to talk about, the first two actually, are together, and then the second one I showed you, even though it's together with the first in one place, it's mentioned separately in another place with another context. Actually, it's mentioned twice more with two different ideas. So the first one is the bottom deal, and Anomen says that the bottom or second deal is the acme of forces. Makes sense. The acme of forces, right? It can be applied anywhere. It's generic application. If you just need a force and you need one right now and you need a way to do it, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with a good second or a good bottom. I prefer a bottom, as you can tell from my second. I don't do seconds very much. I kind of have, if I'm going to do a routine with seconds, I got to practice them first to get the feel, and then I can do it. I certainly need to make sure I have stuff on my fingers for a second. I need to have that. I tend to do a push. Erdnase push second I feel is a little more comfortable than a strike, because I find with a strike I'm more likely to miss or take too many. I'm not as consistent with a strike, even with a huge margin, as I am with a push. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. The bottom, though, I've talked about this before in a certain way that I like to deal with a bottom, especially when you're doing a card number kind of thing. If they give you a number to count off to, it's not a gambling demonstration. I'm not dealing out hands. I can count, and then when I get down to the actual card, what I like to do is push off like this and point and say, this is number 13 or whatever. And when I'm in this situation, I've got all the cover in the world to get my other card out, to get my bottom set. So I don't have to worry about knuckle flash when you're doing this. You point to the card, you get the bottom set, then you reach over, you grab the second or grab the bottom, and you can drop it, and then you force it out. So that's how I like to use the bottom when I'm forcing in that way. Not using it in a dealing demonstration where my bottom has to be very, very clean and it's got to fit in with everything else. And that wasn't even, I could see my knuckles in that one. But whenever I'm doing a bottom in the other context where I am just dealing to a number named, you really have all the cover you need. You don't have to have a clean bottom. You just have to have a secure one. and then you can do it. So seconds. Now, Annemann mentions seconds in 2 other places besides that one. Annemann talks about this where if you're standing, it talks about doing a bad second. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. It's saying, hey, you can do a bad second if you want to, if you're standing and you swing, right? And this covers it up. And this is kind of one of those things that someone will read about. They'll do it on a video, and then magicians will flame them and say how terrible it looks. Well, you got to remember who you're doing this for, right? An audience doesn't see it as a bad second. They see it as dealing, right? Kind of a flashy, exuberant kind of motion. But it's just dealing from the deck. So what Annemann talks about is you can do a strike. I think it implies a strike by having a really big margin, pushing off by, you know, 1/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, I think it says, and then striking the card, but you're swinging. So you swing in, you push the card off, you necktie the thing. It doesn't say necktie, but it says tilts in. And then you can strike a card and drop it down, swing in, drop it down. And you can see people do this, and you know where they got it from, if they read it from there or from another reference like that. But Annemann says, hey, it's fine to do that probably when you're standing at a table and you're just counting cards off. That's one way to do it. Annemann even talks about having a cover card, the force card, having the corner cut off. So if you snip off the bottom, rather the outer inside corner, cut it off right there so that you have a exposed second underneath. The back of the pattern lines up, and Annemann is saying you can just strike second from that corner. And then when it's time to show, it's not a problem because that corner is the one that you hold. So you can actually hold the cut corner and show the card as the value. So really quirky kind of solution to that, to do a kind of a stage set or parlor second. But Annemann talks about that as if he knows several people that do that. Why not? Why not if it works, right? Have a gaff card on top, do a second that way. Certainly wouldn't work for gambling routines or anything like that. But as a force, sure. Yeah, you could do something like that. Anyway, Annemann talks about it, so we're going to talk about it here. The next one is the give back force. This is bold. This is really bold. And again, I don't know. I'll have to watch the video back. I'll probably just leave it the way it is. But Annemann talks about forcing a top card. And actually, Annemann talks about forcing several cards. So it says like 3. So let's say you had the ace, the 5, and the 8. And let's say somebody says 7. 7, they name 7. What you do is you reverse count off 1, 2, 3, and you keep reverse counting 4, 5, and when you get to 6, instead of taking a card, what you do is you push back the bottom card, which was the top, and you put it back on top. 6, and then take 7 fairly, which was 6 that you put back. That's what it says, okay? There's a card, that person gets one. Now, remember, I've got 2 remaining cards that I can force. So you can say, name a number, small number, maybe up to 10. They say 5. You say, great. 1, 2, 3, give back, 5. Give them that one. That would be the 5 that we were forcing. Name another number, right? Let's say 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's on the one before. The one before you give it back rather than take, and then you take it back on top. That's the last force. That's the 8. Okay, so give back force, right? I file this under trick dealing. That's the relationship with all these. They're all trick dealing. And then the last one, you should know by looking at it. Certainly not my favorite thing to do. Usually you see this done in packet effects, right? Small packet effects, but it is the glide. It's a trick deal, the glide, right? So you're taking from the bottom instead of the top. Annemann says, have an indifferent card on the bottom so you can show it, you can flash it. So it's a convincer is what it is. So you can see the 5 down there. You're going to set up the glide, the force card, which is actually the second card. you take off the bottom card, count it out, and as you are taking this off, you can commence to your glide. So what you're doing is you're just pulling back the force card just a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch, so that you can get a grip on the card next. So now you're dealing seconds from the bottom, right? So that's 1, and then you can count off 2, 3, 4. Let's say we're going to 8, 5, 6, 7. And then whenever I go to 8, I just grab the glided card, and then I pull that one out, and that's my force. So you have a convincer on the bottom, glide it back, count others, and then you count down to that card, and that's the card that's force. So, hey, I don't know, as a force, whatever. I think it's better, glides are better in a packet kind of situation than they are off of the deck, but certainly it's a false deal. It's a false deal, false count that you can use to force. So anyway, the Acme of Force, bottoms, seconds, couple of ways to think about seconds, one of them really unorthodox. A give back count, give back on the second to last and then take it back again. It's interesting. It's an interesting idea, especially if you're walking around. And then, of course, the glide. So good luck with that. Happy magic.